Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests. Viewpoint.
It is Tuesday, the 31st of March. Welcome to Viewpoint, Talk Radio's current affairs programme with a panel of invited guests where we discuss the issues of the day. If you want to get involved with this morning's Viewpoint, you can talk about something local, national or internationals. These are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
And obviously we'll be looking at the latest developments out of Iran as President Trump threatens to obliterate Iran's energy sites. Will there be boots on the ground? Are the Marines going to attack Karg Island, for example? And if Trump attacks the energy sites and desalination plants, could that get him into trouble from for attacking civilian infrastructure? May talk about that. We'll be looking at the latest news from Spain as the plans to allow an amnesty and temporary visas for migrants may have far-reaching impacts on other European nations, and also a report that came out last week. If you've got little ones in the family, daughters, goddaughters, granddaughters, whatever, and sons, of course, as well, there was a report saying that I think it was children under 5 shouldn't have more than 2 hours on devices or screen time. So let's have a look at that one as well. Again, it's perhaps a little bit away from the major stories. Anything else you want to get off your chests, then you know the number. So let's have a look first off at the papers, though, today, because another BBC scandal apparently is making the headlines. The Daily Mirror has further claims about the sacking of Radio 2 breakfast show presenter Scott Mills. Mills' crisis for the BBC is the Sun's headline. The paper says corporation staff were left stunned as the news of his departure broke. According to the Daily Mail, it's believed that his sacking, announced with what has been described as a curt public statement, was one of the final acts of the BBC Director General Tim Davie, who reportedly wanted to clear the decks before leaving his job on Thursday. The Daily Star says bookmakers believe Gary Davis is the favourite to take over from Scott Mills as the permanent host of the Radio 2 breakfast show. He's described as a natural, safe pair of hands. The Daily Mail also name-checks Vernon Kay, Sarah Cox, Greg James, Trevor Nelson and Ryland Clark. Could Chris Evans be tempted by an emotional return? Asked the Daily Telegraph, adding, stranger things have happened. The Times reports the Chancellor is in line for a multi-billion-pound tax windfall as the war in the Middle East drives up energy prices. Analysis by the paper suggests the government is making about £20 million a day in additional revenue through levies and taxes linked to the price of oil and gas. Government sources have warned that any extra funds generated could be offset by the cost of borrowing. Labour urged to help Britain's drivers. Now is the headline in the Daily Express. The AA has warned the Prime Minister not to delay. The I paper leads on his number 10 summit with business leaders, in which he urged them to limit the fall from the Iran war. So the headlines from the top. The Guardian, Trump threat to obliterate all Iranian power plants. The Daily Mirror, sacked Mills in 2016 cop probe. The Sun, Mills crisis for the BBC. Daily Mail, the BBC crisis as another scandal hit presenter is sacked. Mills in sex probe, says the Daily Star. Daily Telegraph has got him on the front, but Starmer's 48-hour ultimatum to doctors. The Times, war brings in £20 million a day extra in energy taxes. The IPM meets UK fuel bosses as prices rise at the pumps. Daily Express, Labour urged to help Britain's drivers now. In the Financial Times, conflict talk, Trump and Iran at odds. The Metro, tenant blew up home after £80 rent rise. Blimey. And those are your headlines on this Tuesday, the 31st of March.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
And we have a full house this morning. I'm joined in the studio by Alia Babapoulet.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Giles.
Good to have you with us. By Andres Gallardo to my centre.
To your centre, as ever.
Yes.
Good morning, Giles. Good morning, everyone.
And our man in London, Rex Leonard. Rex, are you receiving us?
I'm receiving you loud and clear. Good morning, Giles. Good morning, Spain.
Good to have you with us. 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Studio at TRE.radio is the email. WhatsApp me on +34 645 99 67 95. Let's have a look then, shall we, at the situation. As the war goes now into what was its fourth week, its fifth week. Still, everybody seems to be confused. Diesel prices, energy prices have gone through the roof. One day Trump says he's speaking to the Iranians and they say, well, not that we know. And then he's saying we've got to issue a ceasefire and we have, the US Marines being moved closer and closer to the conflict area. I'll start with you, Rex. What is you're over there in the old country in London. What are your thoughts on this, and what are you seeing in the UK? Are people starting to grumble about petrol prices? What's happening over there, Rex?
Well, regrettably, due to one man's idiocy in not planning or thinking this through, we have all been innocently dragged into a war which was not of our making. As you know, I'm not a great fan of our current government or Prime Minister, but the only thing that he said of real sensibility in the last 48 hours is that it is not our war, and it isn't our war. However, we sympathize with the Iranian people. That's the 80% that are not in pursuit or support of the regime. Driving through London on Sunday, we went right through London. From one side to the other, we went to Shoreditch, and we drove down Whitehall and everything. And there were loads of demonstrations by UK Iranian-based supporters, or rather anti-government supporters, and all very friendly, all very lovely. And of course, one has to sympathise with the people of Iran, or as the poshies like to be called, Persians. They're a lovely people, and they have suffered immensely. However, that does not preclude the fact that Trump has gone in without planning it properly, without thinking it through, and put us all in trouble. I was going to use another word then, but I stopped myself.
Well, thank you for stopping us, holding back there, right?
I had to hold off there. So, Giles, in answer to your question, most people are against this so-called war. The sad thing is that it will permeate through all our walks of life, whether we like it or not, from food prices, farming, transport, public transport, private transport, everything will be affected. And therefore, I would say that the mood from this side, in the UK, there is no appetite for this war at all.
Panel, what are your thoughts on... Start with you, Aria.
Well, I'm glad somebody else comes up and says also there is no planning behind it whatsoever, because there isn't. I mean, he's been waffling around, I don't have to say who, waffling around now for 3 weeks going, oh, I've got a deal, I haven't got a deal, we've got this, we're doing that. Then he comes back, I'm in talks with Iran, and so on and so forth. And nobody has a clue what they're doing over there. None. Somebody said to me last week on the programme, President Trump is working so hard. He goes off golfing every weekend. Over $100 million of the taxpayers' money is spent on his golfing because he's got to take his Secret Service with him and so on and so forth. When there were crises before, those presidents were in the White House, in the crises room, thinking everything through. He just goes waffling off and leaves a total incompetent bunch of nincompoops there, causing all of this to spiral completely out of hand.
I think you should really say what you feel there.
I do, absolutely. Am I right, Rex?
You are right.
Thank you.
Also, we're dealing with, I've always refer to him with the same description, an imperious, confected oaf, who sadly has the early onset of dementia. And his behavior is totally erratic. He talks like a young child. We've discussed this before, Giles. He dribbles on, and he can't even get the words out. I mean, he cannot enunciate. And when you talk about cost, he gets in Air Force One, a huge jumbo jet, to go down to his home for the weekend. Imagine us going in a jumbo jet to play golf. Yeah. I mean, talk about a waste of money.
I can see it now. Andreas, your take on what's happening at the moment?
Well, nothing much has changed in terms of what's happening in the Middle East since last week. My position hasn't changed. At the very, very beginning, I thought surely they're not going to be as naive as they've been in previous wars and previous conflicts. And this time they're going to have a well thought through plan. A month into the war, the evidence is that they got themselves into a rabbit hole, which is going to be very difficult to come out with successfully. And in the meantime, as Rex perfectly just expressed, we all dragged into this situation, and we are all paying the consequences in a war that we haven't pursued, we haven't supported, we still don't support, and basically we are the ones in the middle, especially in Europe, but in other countries as well. I mean, in Asia, they've got problems with the supply of petrol. In Thailand, in the queues in the
India,
petrol stations.
Pakistan.
All of these countries are suffering as well as in Europe. Inflation hasn't stopped yet, so it will continue to grow in the weeks and months to come. So we're in a complete mess. And the fact that we don't see a plan makes us very...
But you see, some people would say because Trump is playing this, four-dimensional chess, which we hear, we're not going to see a plan because we don't need to see a plan, and therefore, I mean, Hesketh was talking about this. Trump's got a strategic vision that basically goes from Iran over to Brazil, up to Greenland, and then back down to Cuba. Exactly. So that's part. So it's part of this whole strategic. So Venezuela's the Amazon, Cuba's thing, Greenland's the north, and Iran is the far east, if you will.
You see that
the terrible thing is that he wants to go down as the peacemaker, as the president who changed the world. He's going to go down as the president who changed the world for the wrong reason.
Absolutely.
All that. I need a peace prize. I need this accolade. I need this reverence. It's absolutely ridiculous. And we are, he will go down as probably the worst president. Unless there's a miracle. And one last thing. Who's running Iran without all the theocracy? Who's actually in charge? Because they seem to be doing rather a good job.
Yeah, well, the thing behind that is...
War star.
Yeah, well, the thing behind that is the fact that they are operating as small units. It's called Mosaic. And so you don't need to have you can keep knocking off the head of the structure.
It's like a hydra.
Right.
But it's not like a hydra. Independently, it's like a mosaic. They're all independently operating like terrorist cells always do. So there's no, if you like, chain of command. They just operate independently, which is how they can keep, bombing. Because it doesn't have to be high tech. I mean, obviously drones aren't particularly high tech anymore, but if you, lob an RPG at a tanker, you don't need to have a whole structure for that. So they are all operating independently. And again, because Iran is a particularly huge country as well, so they can be
people don't realise exactly what Iran looks like. I mean, I've said before, I've been there many, many times. And even all the 16 times that I'm there, I saw only parts of it. It is immense, and also the topography of Iran is something completely different. They're ringed round with inaccessible mountains. These people have been trained in mountain guerrilla warfare, rather like Afghanistan, well, with the Afghanis. terrible time that happened before. And if Trump thinks that he can just go in and drop people willy-nilly all over the place like he's dropping mines, then he's in for another thing coming, because these people are trained in mountainous warfare. They're going to come up. The Americans or whoever goes with them are going to get massacred.
Let's not forget that it had 46 years to establish a regime that is well sinking into society and everything. I mean, the timing seemed right after we recently saw all the protests of Iranians against the government, although being for financial and economic reasons, it still was a big a protest throughout the country. And you, after seeing that, you would think, well, the timing might be right now for a regime change. But it hasn't been the case, not with the protests, not with the bombing. So they're well ingrained in their positions. So the outcome of a regime change is looking more and more difficult every day that passes by.
Look,
and they said they were going to run out of munitions. So, well, they haven't seemed to have run out of anything. No. There are two people politically in this world who are rubbing their hands in glee. One is Putin and the other is Ping. Yeah. The Chinese and the Russian leaders must be rubbing their hands.
Did you see the other day, Rex, sorry to interrupt,
no.
The other day President Xi just said very quietly, sitting over in the other corner, he said, if anyone thinks this is going to go nuclear, they should take a step back and think again. Now, that's
really?
That was one of the heaviest things that came out of China in the last few weeks. And I thought to myself, oops, that's not looking very good.
Indeed. And to the WhatsApp...
Sorry, no, I was going to say the speculation now is that China and Russia may be drawn into the conflict, which will widen the problem for everyone. And then the outcome will be... it is unpredictable now, but if they are drawn into the conflict, the outcome could be just catastrophic, if it is not already catastrophic.
Well, and then China could walk into Taiwan.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the big fear. That's the next big fear.
Yes.
And if Taiwan goes, then all our computers will shut down.
The one who's really laughing all the way, not to the bank, because they're in terrible financial straits at the moment, is Russia. They've got their assets in the White House, as we have seen. And now, with all of this going on, he's just sitting there in his bunker or whatever where he's poodled himself off to, and is put in and watching all of this and thinking, But now there are riots happening in Russia. There are people rising up against all of this, and there have been some people up on the streets in Russia against the government.
I saw that.
Did you?
There was the TV program about the Quiet Rebellion.
That's right.
They're all fed up.
On the other hand, Rex, what would have been the best course of action? To leave the status quo as it was, letting Iran sponsor terrorism throughout the region and throughout the world, terrorizing everyone, terrorizing their own people, controlling the oil transit and the prices. Was that the right thing to do, or just let them be? And God knows if they are trying to enrich uranium to get nuclear weapons. Was that the right thing to do? Shall we just let them carry on with it? And that's a question that requires an answer.
Well, Trump's original intention was to remove the nuclear weapons. That was the original. Not to topple the regime, but to remove their nuclear status, their nuclear ability. But unfortunately, as we've already discussed, the planning was non-existent, and we've ended up in a worse situation than anybody could have imagined because of the lack of planning. And there should have been a coordinated, I'm not going to say attack, but a coordinated effort by all nations to resolve the problem rather than allowing America to go in alone.
Listen, Rex, you are obviously following this through very well. If you think back a few years ago, President Obama got Iran to sign a deal. And it was on the table that they would not enrich uranium, etc., etc. Trump came in and he tore it up. Now look at the present. Now look at the present mess that we have because of this megalomaniac, narcissistic man who is doing all of this to all of the world. If he was doing it just to, sorry to say, the US, fine, it's contained, but it's not, because it's like a hydra. It spreads, as Giles was saying, it goes everywhere. It's global. They have no thought behind this. This is another Vietnam, another Afghanistan, but this time with far more reaching consequences because of all the weaponry.
Well, I wouldn't say it's another Vietnam. I say it's turning into an American version of, Russia's military intervention in Ukraine. This is going to drag on. It's not going to, because of the way it's going to fight. I want to go to the WhatsApps. The WhatsApps, of course, is +34 645 99 67 95. Morning, fam. Morning, fam, family, I believe. At the weekend, I was talking to this is from Peter. At the weekend, I was talking to a friend in the military out in the Gulf. He's sure from the fact a big assault ship has gone dark, presumably that means it's gone off whatever communication there, ready to go at the drop of a hat. I truly hope not, though. Wasted lives in the chase of money. This one is saying, whoa, Andres fully supported the US invading Iran. What a turncoat. Get someone who knows what's going on. There you go. That's your first insult of the day. Meanwhile, Claudia, good morning, Giles. I hope he doesn't put his eyes on Gibraltar. Okay, 25th Amendment is written all over. 25th Amendment is they can remove him due to medical illnesses, and that's 25th. He's holding the whole world hostage, and this war has nothing to do with liberating the Iranians, and Andres, Iran were at the negotiating table. So those are some of the things. The poll is up on our Facebook page, asking the question, do you think that the US will put boots on the ground in Iran? You can go yes, no, or there will be a diplomatic solution. Should you wish to get involved with the show this morning, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us @TRE Talk Radio.
There's ways to get in touch with us about any of the issues you wish to discuss. Can be local, national, or international. I just want to have a quick word. Rex, just saying the whole thing about the UK, and we can segue into Spain as well, because obviously, most of the European leaders have gone, okay, well, fine, you do you, as the saying goes. Starmer, obviously, when this kicked off, the Conservative leader was saying we should be there standing next to the Americans, and they were belittled for not having, any ships there. Pedro Sanchez has been absolutely saying we are not getting involved, you can't fly over. What's your, just quickly, Eric, as you're our man in the UK, Starmer sort of, This is obviously relatively good for Starmer because he hasn't, thrown in the British military too heavy-handedly at the beginning, so therefore, he can sort of seem diplomatic. What's your thought on how? Because we've got elections coming up in the UK as well, haven't we? The local government elections.
Well, you have to go back to before Ukraine, when, and we've had this discussion, Giles, over previous programs, when we were all lulled into 30 years of relative peace with virtually no wars. And all governments, except the Americans, sort of wound down their military. And, we have now been caught off guard. We have nothing left. What we have is in dock being repaired, or the aircraft are not ready. It goes on, and in the meantime, consecutive governments have depleted our forces So we're in no position to really fight. With regards to Starmer and his the forthcoming election, it appears that he has been voted the most unpopular Prime Minister since records began. But that will unfold in the local elections in a few weeks' time. But he, on the international front, I think he uses that to defer from the domestic scene, which, of course, is in disarray, nothing to do with the war because it was there before. All their decisions politically are completely the wrong way around. And we can't afford in this country to be as socially gracious as the Labour Party would like us to be.
To the lines we go. 952 78 4000. Morning call, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. It's Alf.
Morning, Alf. How are you doing?
Hiya, panel.
Morning, Alf.
Hi, Rex in London.
Good morning. Hi, Alf. How are you?
Okay, you?
You're still above ground.
Right, well,
I don't know. I started building a bunker and then thought, what's the chances of Spain getting bombed? So I stopped.
Well, you're slightly nearer than us.
We're a lot nearer than you, but we can't hear the bangs, so we're far enough away.
What's your view? What's your take on what's been happening, Alf?
Sorry, Giles.
Nice to know, you two catch up, but yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, I'm not sure why you people constantly have to rubbish other people. Rex, you said, the poshies, this is your words, the poshies called them Persians. I worked with a guy.
The posh Iranians called... I worked with a guy from Persia, and he was Persian. He wasn't Iranian, he was Persian. And I'm talking 50, 60 years ago. And he escaped as a young kid. He escaped as a young kid with his parents to avoid when the Shah was taken out. So don't demean these people.
I think it was a bit
No,
mean.
I'm not demeaning them. No, that was a compliment. I meant it as a compliment. I love Persian people.
Call them Persians. Well, it ain't poshes, but I work with weren't posh. Anyway, and Andreas
I use
says...
the word loosely.
Yeah, and Andreas says every week, we're dragged into a war of not our making. We haven't been dragged into a war. We're not part of a war. We are part of the fallout from somebody else's war, which would have happened, which it did happen, for people with short memories, when, Vietnam didn't just affect Southeast Asia, it affected worldwide things, lots and lots of things. Ukraine affects lots of things. So we weren't dragged into a war. We've never been dragged into this war. And at least have the decency to say what Starmer's been doing is correct. We're not going to be part of this war. We don't believe in what you did as America, even though I still argue if the US had gone to the United Nations, they wouldn't have got a mandate, so they did it. What's more interesting is that Trump gets all the blame for this. But in reality, it's Netanyahu. It was Netanyahu who put pressure on Trump because he evidently, he told Trump he was going to go into Iran. Not America was going to go into Iran and Israel would join in. He was going to go. All of the intelligence comes from presumably Mossad in Iran. He has carried on this secondary war in Lebanon. He is pressing all the buttons, and on top of that, the biggest group of people, as I understand it, again, I don't live there, I'm not part of it, but right. The biggest pressure group in the United States is the Jewish pressure group. So, let's stop just blaming Trump and say this is about worldwide pressure on Trump to do whatever he's doing in order to support what Netanyahu was going to start and did start and was part of it.
Got loads of calls coming on that one, Alf, so
okay,
call back.
I'll talk later because there's some other things.
All right, okay. Right, okay, we want to go to some other calls. Morning, call, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where you... sorry, I just lost that call. I'm going to take a quick break and then back with more Viewpoint.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively. Straight to the lines we go. Morning, call, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your Viewpoint, please?
It's Gil from Calpe.
Morning, Gil.
Good morning. My opinion is different from everybody on the panel, or everybody who spoke so far. I support this war. I think it's going extremely well so far. It's not over yet, and it's very well planned. I mean, the fact that, people on the panel have said, oh, it's not planned, Trump doesn't know what... How do you know it's not planned? I mean, the fact that you don't have the plans doesn't mean that it's not planned. I mean, in a war, you don't tell everybody your plans, because then the enemy knows your plans. You keep them secretly, okay? So the fact that Trump says, one day says, well, we'll talk to the Iranians, we'll come up with a deal, and the other day says, well, we'll bomb the hell out of them. I mean, that's all part of the psychology of running a war. You confuse your enemy, okay? Yes, prices of oil have gone up and the stock market is down and everything, but that will be over in, in a few weeks. This war will be over, yeah, and then things will go back to normal. The main thing is, if we get rid of this regime in Iran, it doesn't mean that we have to do a regime change, but we have to make the conditions right so that the Iranians will be able to, remove this regime. The world will be a much better place.
But I mean, people might argue, Gil, and I get you. I mean, they're saying that there isn't really a regime on the there isn't really an opposition on the ground in Iran that can function at the moment because of the repressive nature of that particular regime.
Yeah, well, yes, that might be the case. That'd be a good thing, Well, if suddenly there's a revolt, okay, then at least there's no resistance to this revolt, okay. You want to weaken the regime as much as possible. Now, Alf said, it's all about the Jewish lobby, and many people think that as well. But Trump has been on the record since the 80s, and you can check that. I mean, I've looked at all the YouTube clips. In 1980, Trump said that one must do something about Iran and probably get control of Kog Island. He said it as early as that, and he's been saying it over the years, yeah? So it's not as if Trump never cared about Iran, didn't want to do anything, okay? And suddenly Netanyahu gave him the idea, okay? It was Trump's idea as well. I mean, he's wanted to do something about Iran for many years, okay? Now, Trump said to him, look, Netanyahu said to him, now is a good time because there were demonstrations against Iran. There's a chance the regime will fall. And, we know there's going to be a meeting with Khamenei and all his officers above ground, so we want to take advantage of it and get rid of this, okay? So Trump decided to join, but it's not just Netanyahu. I mean, Iran has been a big headache for the entire world.
Okay, Gil, as always, thank you for your call in. Good to hear from you as always up there in Calpe. Thanks for the call. 952-78-4000. Okay, we've got the poll running. If you want to get involved with this morning's show, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952-78-4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
To the lines we go again. Busy this morning. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
My name is Athena. Just to say that I agree completely and 100% on the last call, the caller, the one that's just finished. I know a lot of Persian people and Jewish people. I've always had very good relations with them, and I agree completely on what he said, and not the fuffle that they were saying at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call. Short, sharp, and to the point. Andrea's talking about short, sharp, to the point. You're going to say?
I just wanted to make a point to Gil. And I stress the point that I've been making from last week, actually. I really thought that this war was very well thought through, and there was a plan, and it was going to be quick and sharp. The fact that after a month we haven't seen any real progress on regime change, on nuclear finishing the nuclear program.
Capacity,
we haven't seen the proxies restrained in terms of attacking the Gulf countries and Israel constantly. All of that makes me think that at this point, they haven't been. It's not successful, and it appears not to be a plan in place to make it work. Now, if there is a plan in place and we don't know, of course, they're not going to sort of advertise it on the media and everything else. I understand Gil's point to say, yes, of course, they're not going to tell us all what they're going to do, of course, because a war is a war. I understand that. But the evidence today is that there seems that there is no plan. And secondly, the lengthening of the conflict is having an important, strong influence on what's happening here now, and is affecting us all. So I think that's a reasonable sort of viewpoint in terms of the overall situation from the beginning of the war to today.
To the lines we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Good morning. It's John in Benavista.
Oh, John, how you doing?
Very good, very good. I'd just like to say how refreshed these callers, Hill and the lady. I'm in complete agreement with them, and it's refreshing to have not listened to Rex's ramblings and with Trump derangement system, and the good lady who consistently insults Trump for having golfing weekends. He's the hardest working president I think I can ever remember. I mean, if you want to compare him with Biden, who was asleep half the time, it's just ridiculous. And to suggest that the war is not planned is just ridiculous as well. I mean, the timing was perfect. Iran's at the weakest it's ever been. And the world will be a better place when it's all over. There you go.
Thank you very much for your call in there. Right then, panel.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What do you think of what we've been hearing thus far then, panel? Rex, I'll start with you first as you're over there. So you would like to say something?
I think the war's in its fifth week anyway. Is it true that there was an explosion in Haifa in Israel last night or yesterday?
There was one in Eilat. There was one in Eilat, Ben Gurion Airport as well.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
The war has wider reaches. I will agree with Alf when he talked about Trump being in close contact with or under the influence of Netanyahu. We all know about Netanyahu, and I've said this before many times about Netanyahu, that the minute he leaves office, he's allegedly in trouble for past misdemeanors. I think that Israel's aggression is probably reaching its zenith, if I can use that word, because the war is spreading everywhere now in the Middle East, and every innocent Emirati has been dragged in. Mr. and Mrs. Houthi have joined the war to interfere with
just
shipping.
To make it a little more interesting, indeed, the Houthis, of course.
The Houthis are in, and when people say that this war has been planned, well, I suggest they look up the old adages from SOEs during the Second World War, which, and somebody said before about Iran working in cells. That does make sense, as they did in SOE, when one cell didn't know what the other was doing, so there was no crossover and no chance of any infection or
giving the whole structure away.
Exactly. So that does make sense.
One thing.
I also am aware that the Americans are also unhappy. The American people are now starting to become very unsettled and very unhappy, as well as everybody else.
Andreas just wants to come in on that.
We mentioned Russia before. Yeah. And I'd like to add America, because there are, I think, demonstrations in America against what is going on.
Andreas?
Yeah, I think it is clear that the dominant motives of this war for the United States and Israel are completely different. Israel, they are fighting for their they're defending themselves. They've been under attack from terrorist proxies from Iran for a long, long time. You got Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. You know, they're all sponsored Iran to terrorists. They are attacking constantly, and they've been doing it for many, many years, Israel. And I think they got to the point where they said, we need to put a stop to that because we need to fight for our safety. The war of the United States is a different one. It's more to do with economic dominance of the world and the flux of resources like petrol and so on, oil and so on. So there are two different dominant motives for this war. Of course, they're allies now, but when those two motives sort of separate a little bit, you might find that the two countries they are together at the moment may look at different solutions. For Israel, it's very, very difficult to walk out of this without a clear victory because their own security is at risk. For the United States, they could come out of the conflict claiming some kind of victory that could be argued or not, but they will say, "Oh, we've won, so we're out of here." So Israel is in a more difficult position. Who dragged who into this war? We won't know. It's not good to say, "Oh, it was Netanyahu's fault that he convinced Donald Trump," or the other way around. I think he's half of one. 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. And I think that the two motives converge into one action. But these two motives will be, at some point, will have to be separated because they're completely different.
952-784-1000 to the WhatsApps that we go. Good morning, Giles. Everybody has that call was a disgrace. Everybody's a right to his opinion. I like your people in the studio and on the phone. They're knowledgeable. They're very knowledgeable and intelligent. Thank you for that one. There you go. There you go, Rex. That's you as well, by the way. Meanwhile, I know you're very knowledgeable and intelligent. Persians are those Iranians from Pars near Isfahan. The others, such as Kurds, Azeris, Turks, are part of Iran. Israel's getting hammered at the moment, hence the request for ceasefires. As far as terrorism goes, according to the CIA, Iran comes in at number 8 or 9. Of course, this doesn't include Israel or the US as the main arbiters of terrorism. People should know the facts. The UAE has been heavily involved in trying to destroy Iran. They were front and center in the devaluation of the Iranian main rial. In addition, the UAE has been supporting Israel through the First and Second War. Israeli soldiers are around the UAE, headquarters of the US government and military, Trump, Kushner, Wolf family headquarters. Youth panelists should know the facts. Blah, 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 blah. What about regime change in Israel? Do you conveniently ignore massive protests in Israel against Netanyahu? What about 8 million or more anti-King march in the US? Perhaps a regime change there isn't a bad idea either. Regime change in the US, Rex?
It was said by a soothsayer. Now I'm
soothsayer. Now, where on earth do you find a soothsayer?
I'm going to chuck a little something in here, and you can take it with a pinch of salt. But for those who are linked to the spirit world, and those who prophesy or see into the future, it has been said very recently, and I'm not endorsing this. I'm just quoting, so I don't want to be labelled or wrongly labelled. But it has been said that Trump will have a medical issue in August. That's what's been said, and right. There will be, and what's his name will take over.
Mystic Rex, you heard it here first.
You heard it here
first.
I'm not. I'm only sharing.
If you're wearing a headscarf and lots of jewellery, Rex, that's going to really okay.
But this is absolutely. It's come out. It was somewhere on Instagram or whatever it was.
Oh, well, then.
But listen, who knows? Who knows?
But yes,
we know that Trump does have health issues. Regime change, I don't know. He's just going back to Netanyahu. Isn't there an election due in Israel sometime soon?
Yes,
I'm not sure when the next election is. I was there once. Well, I've only been once, but it was just at the time when he was elected. I was thinking it was 2018. But surely there is perhaps regime change due in Israel.
But hold on a second, because regime change
when
means
I say regime or government change.
Government change, exactly. Because the regime is a democracy, both in Israel and the United States. So people in the United States can vote for the Democrat Party and there will be a change in government. The same, in Israel, they could vote for the Labour Party and there'll be a regime change.
Regime is the wrong word, actually, Andreas. I'm using the wrong word.
Yeah, okay.
When you talk about a regime, you talk about a non-democratic.
But you're just saying
government.
it because someone said it on the WhatsApp, and then we it's confused all of us. You know, the regime is democracy in both countries, and the government change is what happens when people go and vote. That's why it's called democracy.
Yeah,
exactly.
Didn't all of this start off? Because there were, as I said, the talks going on, and then 2 days later, US bombed Iran. But Trump said that he was going to do something about the regime change because it was not benefiting women. To start off with, he should look in his own country because it's a massive start there, should do something about it. And quite frankly, all of this nonsense which is going on, but what he says, he doesn't say, he does this, he says that, and so on and so forth. I'm going to come back. He doesn't know what he's doing. He is ill. We've all seen it. He gets worse every time he gets in front of a microphone. And if you tell me that person is a rational thinker, no. And last week we discussed here, he is a figurehead. It's the people behind him which are doing and who are doing all of this mess. And go and have a look at the Heritage Foundation, which has been written, and it's Project 2025. I've read parts of it, and quite frankly, it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It is vicious. It is absolutely vicious. And if you don't read that, then you will not understand what's going on here. And I, quite frankly, am scared silly.
952 78 4000. So let's have a look at how on Talk Radio Europe official, we've got a poll up there today. Do you think that the US will put boots on the ground? 60% of you think there will be American troops in Iran. 20% say no. Only 20% of you think there will be a diplomatic solution. So if you want to get yourself on that poll, please let me know. Good morning to Francisco Pena as well, saying hello there on the Facebook page. And just quickly to the lines we go. We got 2 minutes before we hit the break. So here we go. Morning, Cordy, you're live on TRE. What's your name?
Sorry, Giles, it's Athena again. I just can't stand people. All they do is slag Trump off. Well, Trump is very clever and an intelligent person and very good for his age. Please don't slag him off like that. When people don't know what to say or they don't have anything to say, well, we'll slag Trump off. That's all they do. And that makes me furious because I like Trump because he's very clever. And if he's not well, all the better for him. That's more on his side. And he's 80. What can you expect?
Excuse me, I'm nearly 80 myself, and I am. And quite frankly, my brain power is perfectly fine. He hasn't got any. It's ridiculous if you listen to him when he's talking. What happens?
You see, the freedom of speech is marvelous, because you can like Trump or dislike Trump and open your view to on a radio program like this one or media outlets. So that's wonderful. If this lady likes Trump,
yes.
Fantastic,
Go for it.
There's an opinion that we all have to respect, And
most countries in the world, you're not allowed to have an opinion.
Exactly. Don't forget that in this planet, only 8% of people live under democracy,
Exactly.
and it's great that
surely,
we have that freedom.
Us quote unquote slagging Trump off is part of a healthy political discourse.
Of course it's healthy.
So
of course it's healthy.
Right then.
You can't do it in China, you can't do it in Russia, you can't do it in Iran. And even in Dubai, they were restricting people talking and taking photographs and everything. So it goes on. It goes on.
Right then, those bongos mean we're coming out to the end of the first half, Rex. So we will see you after the national and international news. Thanks very much. We'll see you after the national and international news with more Viewpoint.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Discuss, challenge, inform, comment, Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe.
Giles Brown.
Live comment and discussion with studio guests.
Viewpoint. Welcome back to the second half of Viewpoint with me, Giles Brown, joined in the studio by Alia Babapoulet and Andres Gallardo, and we'll be joined in a minute by Rex Leyland. If you want to get in London, if you want to get your, or on the Thames at least, if you want to get your Viewpoint across, these are the numbers.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Yes, indeed, all is well in the world. The second coffee that they just kicked in. Can you just see how that's changed me now? I was absolutely... Anyway, joined, as I said before, Rex over in the UK. I'm with the lady on the panel, says somebody. Are you got a secret admirer, Alia? Looking at...
Thank you.
There we go, you see. So then, I'm asking on the poll, do you think the US will put boots on the ground? And at the moment, we have 61% think he will, or the US will put troops on the ground in Iran. No, 24%. Only 15% of you think there'll be a diplomatic solution. Yes, go on, Alia, you're waving at me.
I am just looking and seeing that Donald Trump is willing to end the war without closing down the Straits of Hormuz, which has just come up on Sky News.
Right then, well, that's
there we are.
That's okay then.
So we can go.
That's okay.
We can go and have a cup of coffee now.
Yeah, exactly. Right, just to take this call.
Can we look back? I'm just stirring the pot.
I've got a call in here, Rex. Can you just hang on a second?
Yep.
Thank you. Morning, call. You're live on TRE. What's your name, Week? From what's your Viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. It's Swansea, Jack.
Jack. How are you, sir?
How are you? I missed the first part. I had an appointment with the chiropodist.
Right, so thanks for showing that for the room.
Yeah. Anyway, the lady on the panel, otherwise I don't know her name.
Alia Babapoulet.
Alia, is it? Right. Well, I only caught a bit of what she said, but I completely agree with her. Right, I'm going to say something very controversial now, Giles.
All right, Jack. All right, Swansea. Come on.
Right, no, I don't spout. I don't give my views, but I'm going to say about the situation in the Middle East, Iran. Right, Trump is not a very intelligent person, a very educated person, in my opinion, from what I've heard, and I believe that he is being manipulated like a puppet by some committee, by some people, higher people, or whatever you want to call them, anonymous people. And this is part of a big plan, a global plan, not including China or Russia, but it's part of a global plan, and it's being financed by the American Jewish community. Now you'll never read that.
Now cut that woof, Swansea. That's I'm not. Come on, please, my friend. That's just.
Well, it's just my opinion.
Obviously, Giles. I know, but you can tell by my reaction, my thought on that one. Okay, I mean,
I know. I'm expecting. I'm expecting the brickbats to come over now.
Yes, indeed. Right,
but,
then,
but that's my opinion,
Swansea.
Giles. I know, unless somebody can disprove it in some way.
Well, listen.
Go and read Project 2025. And read about that. And it's not the Jewish people, it's the white supremacists, which is where all of this is coming from.
White supremacy.
Have a look at it, Project 2025.
Anyway,
you can read about
it. Thanks for your call in. And
right.
And there you are, gone, as the saying goes.
And there he was, gone.
Thank you very much indeed. Right then, let's get off this subject. I think this is... Rex, you all right there?
Spain. You wanted Spain.
Right, super. Rex, you wanted to come on to something. Right, we're going to move away from this because I kind of think...
I'll wrap it up.
Yes, please do, Rex. You know, the firm hand on the tiller, Rex.
Again, it's, as I said, I'm just stirring the soup, stirring the pot. If you look back on America's military success over the last 50... since the Second World War, do we see outstanding victories across the board?
Well, I mean, I would even
you
question...
get my drift, don't you? We're talking about
I would even
War,
question
Vietnam,
the victory.
Afghanistan,
Grenada.
There's not been an absolute rip-roaring success, has there?
And I would even question Rex. Their success in the Second World War, because probably you could argue it was won by the USSR.
That's okay. Before we get a complete,
well, I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Anyway, that's just. One's got to think about that. You really do have to think about it.
Think about.
I do hope. You just think of Afghanistan when they just walked out.
Well, think of the Soviets. I mean, the Soviets got out of there as well because, so did the British, and because Afghanistan is a graveyard for anybody who goes in there because it's inhospitable, etc., etc. And that is my viewpoint on that, Rex. Right then.
Anyway, that's it. That's the culmination.
Right. We're moving on. We're moving on from all this, unless, of course, something explodes on the TV in the next 45 minutes. If you want to get your viewpoint across.
To contact TRE, please call 952 78 4000. Email studio@tre.radio. Send us a WhatsApp on +34 645 99 67 95. Message us on Facebook, Talk Radio Europe Official, or tweet us at TRE Talk Radio.
Right then, we're going to get away from just the final point, and then we'll go back to the poll at the end, but I want to get away from now what's the situation, because hey, it changes every day and who knows where we could be this time tomorrow or this afternoon even. So we're asking on the polls quickly, do you think the US will put boots on the ground in Iran? 61% of you think that there will be boots on the ground. No, 24%. Diplomatic solution is 15%. So thank you for that indeed. Andres.
Yes, sir.
Right then.
Yes.
My friend. Now, because you have a knowledge of what's going on in Spain, and Rex here is out on this one because it's got some thing that's to do with the UK as well. A lot of people, Sanchez has been getting a lot of obviously praise from certain sectors because of his stance. We won't go into that again about what's happening over there, as it were, but. Before all this kicked off, the main talking point, apart from the fact there's no budget, etc., was this new amnesty that was going to let 500,000 people who were living here illegally have temporary visas.
Let me just give you the picture very quickly. The government approved that people who were here before a certain date, I thought it was something like mid-December, and they can prove that they've been in Spain for 6 months, they could have the papers to legalize them and were able to work legally. Yeah. Now, there are a number of arguments here that they've come into play after that announcement. The government position is, okay, these people who they don't have exact figures, but the official figures coming from the government is there is something between 500,000 and 1.3 million. These are official figures, so we don't have a final figure on this, but we're talking about minimum of 500,000 people. The argument is said, well, these people are already here. If we allow them to work legally with proper contracts and everything else, we'll make all these people enter into the economic circle, and they will pay social security, they will pay taxes, and they will be able to have a normal life like everyone else in Spain. The argument is they're already here, they're not going anywhere, so we might as well adopt them, if we can use that term. So that's the argument of the government. It seems quite reasonable. The opposition, however, they have got also what I think a reasonable point is to say, okay, if you let 500,000 people in one go to enter into the system, that could provoke stress on public services, meaning health, education, the housing system. All of these, and social care as well. All of those services that the state provides, they're already, without the 500,000 people or more, they're already under a lot of stress, and most claim they're underfunded. So there's the two arguments inside Spain. But now we have an argument in the European Union where they say, hold on a second, if you're legalizing all these people, that means that these people under the Schengen Agreement could move from Spain and go to other countries. Other countries are trying as much as they can to downsize immigration. Not only that, recently the German government are trying to get an agreement with Syria to return as many as 800,000 people who moved there during the war in Syria, and now they want to repatriate them in Syria under the new regime, which used to be terrorist, but they're now running the country, to say, no, you're safe now, so you can go back. So they are agreeing an economic package for these people to go. So on one side, you got a country like Germany trying to repatriate all these asylum seekers. And on the other hand, we got Spain allowing people to come in. So the argument goes from the reasonable scenario where you accept people and get them into the system to putting stress onto your public services and to the European problem. So this problem has widened to the whole of Europe, certainly to the whole of the European Union. I know Rex will say, well, we're not in the European Union, we're not affected.
No,
but you have a similar problem in terms of the amount of immigration.
Well, we're talking millions,
receiving.
not thousands. But, I mean, I think what you've omitted to say, Andreas, is that is Sanchez buying votes?
Well,
will they be able to vote?
Let me just explain.
Will they vote?
No.
Will they vote?
Let me just say, once they're regularized in Spain, if I'm not mistaken, and someone clicking onto Google there, I think they have. I think they have the right to vote on local elections, but not to general elections. I think that's the general rule on voting. So would he be buying votes? For the time being, I don't think so, unless then after that, in years to come, they become Spanish citizens, then they will have the right to vote in the general election.
Temporary residency permits that include the right to work legally. That's what we have at the moment. I want to go to the lines. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Yeah, morning, Giles. It's Gary here. Morning,
Gary.
panel.
Morning.
Morning.
First of all, it's nice to get away from the Trump derangement syndrome.
I thought we'd do that.
Which I never heard people slagging off Biden. So when people say that Trump is senile and blah, 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 never said a word about Biden or Kamala, but that's neither here nor there.
Okay.
With regard to this subject,
yep.
If anyone wanted to know why Biden and Trump was voted in democratically, by the way, if anyone wanted to know why so many people democratically voted for Brexit, this is a prime example of a country in Europe which has made a unilateral decision to let a lot of people in, and this won't stop anything. This will make things worse. This is just encouraging immigration, illegal immigration. That's just encouraging it. But if anyone didn't know why the British people voted for and were going to have I suppose people was going to phone in and say we didn't vote and it wasn't democratic, blah, 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 sour grapes. But this just encourages it. So, as I said, it reminds me of Germany when they, and no doubt Stephen Ritson will make some comments about this later, when Germany unilaterally made a decision to take the Syrians in. My figures, I think, is it 2 or 3 million?
cherry-picked what they wanted, and then they're throwing them back out, in fact, putting up border controls. So if anyone wonders why the British people voted for Brexit, this is a prime example. It's a bit like when you have a cat colony. Actually, people feed the cats and they think that they're helping the situation, and they're not. They're not. It's just when this is just gonna facilitate illegal immigration. And in my mind, as someone in the Italian government said, is it really helping having all these illegal immigrants? And I'll just tone this down a bit by saying only a fool. Well, yeah, we know your finger's on the fade all the time. Only a fool would say we don't need immigration. I'm not saying that all immigration should be stopped. This is where it's a bit like the Trump disarmament syndrome gets it. It colours the conversation. Every country needs immigration, but it's got to be controlled. And as someone in the Italian government said many years ago, are we doing any favours allowing all these illegal immigrants coming into Italy for the lives they're leading, the kids being trafficked and the women, etc.? So all these people that believe in unfettered immigration, you need a big look at yourself.
Stephen Ritson's been on, Gary. Stephen Ritson, Stephen Ritson's been on 1.2 million Syrian refugees. There you go.
Yeah, but that's his figures, isn't it? That's his figures. I can get figures.
I'm sure. When you say his figures, I'm sure he got it from somewhere.
No. People only use stats for their own.
Purposes.
I mean, yeah. I was going to say you come out with one, and I'll come out with another one. There was an occasion on the BBC World Service many months ago in which, and I know Stephen Ritson's coming on later on, but he came out about immigration does more good for an economy, etc. And yet a well-renowned, I can hear him now. Actually shouting out sources. Yeah, HP sources. Yeah, you can get sources. You can get all the figures you like. Stats are stats. So, you come out with one figure and one source, and I'll come out with another figure and another source.
You say tomato, and I'll say tomato, and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Right.
But personally, I'm a brown sauce person. Always go for the brown.
I'm a slice of brown. Thanks very much, Gary. Take care, indeed. 952-78-4000 is the phone number. There you go. Rex, that's Gary, obviously saying that.
Well, Gary is has got a point in that immigration should have been and always was controlled. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, before the EU and so on, I mean, you didn't just walk into a country, or it just didn't exist. And I think as the world has moved forward, I didn't want to say grown up, but moved forward, obviously attitudes, minds, opinions, views are changing constantly. And as a result of various things happening in the world, and in Britain, I mean, we're no angels because we had a huge empire, and a lot of people from that empire wanted to come to the home country, which is what they have done, and contributed enormously. You think about when Idi Amin chucked out all those lovely people and they came to the UK, they've all done extraordinarily well. So it is really a point of controlled immigration. And what's happened is, I think, due to the Court of Human Rights, European Court of Human Rights, EU rules and regs and so on, and various, shall we say, disturbances in the world, we are now inundated with people zapping off the system. Certainly in the UK, we can't afford to pay for our own forces. We can't afford the national health. And now this government have lifted the 2-child cap. So that means all the families in the country that do not believe in contraception or birth control and have as many children as they like, and we, the taxpayer, are obliged to pay for them. And that is galling.
952 78 4000 is the phone number. So the WhatsApps I go, which says, I agree with Alia. I've read Project 2025. It's all there. I said at the time, if Trump wins, watch how the country will change. Meanwhile, this will bring back... I'm with the lady in the panel. I don't know where this will bring back justification for digital ID. That is the immigration issue. I believe immigrants will be given residency card, which gives them the right to work in Spain, but not Europe. Also, they'll have to provide documents showing no criminal record in Spain, maybe elsewhere. Okay. Stephen Ritson's been on, and meanwhile, Jane in Mallorca can only vote in general elections if you're a Spanish national, have a Spanish passport, can apply after 2 years of legal residency in Spain. For most South Americans and Filipinos, 0.5 years equals refugees, and the rest need 10 plus years legal residency to be able to apply for Spanish passport to vote in general elections. To the lines we go. Thanks for holding, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
It's Gil from Calpe again.
Gil.
Someone mentioned Angela Merkel allowing all these Syrians to come in 2015. I think nobody will forgive her for that. As a result of her allowing all these people in, whatever the number is, that's what started the AfD party. I mean, she founded it. There wouldn't have been an AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, right-wing party without Angela Merkel.
Stephen Ritson will shoot you down on that one. Gil, but I think he will argue about that's not exactly the case. But it didn't.
Well, the AfD got a lot of support as a result of all this immigration, and the same thing will happen here in Spain. You know, if Sanchez, a bastard, allows all these immigrants to come in, what will happen? Vox will be even more popular than it is, and eventually will win in the polls, I mean, it's going to continue like this. Nobody's doing anything about the immigration, okay, because if you open your mouth, then everybody calls you a racist, okay? As a result, I believe there's going to be a civil war in Britain and in Europe, okay? And I'm not the only one who says it. I mean, there are many people who predict it. I mean, there's one Canadian professor, his name is David Betts, and he wrote lots of books about the topic, and he tries to prove why there's going to be a civil war in Britain. But I think there's going to be, a civil war in all of Europe, one country after another, on the issue of immigration.
Right. Okay, Gil, thank you for that. Thank you for that one. 952 78 4000. Okay. Here we go. Morning, calling live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Morning, Giles. It's Alf again.
Right then, Alf. Here we go.
Yeah, well, I just wish people like Gary would learn the difference between illegal immigrants and immigrants, right, because this is where it all gets mixed up. And what we've got, the issue in Spain is they've had all these people applying, similar to the UK. You've got all these people applying for asylum to change their status in life in the world, and the system can't cope with processing them properly. So I'm agreeing to a certain extent with what Andreas was intimating. And what happened when they let the Syrians in to one specific country that I know a little bit about, and that's Sweden. And when they let this mass of people in, and every country sort of took their share, except the UK, even though we were in the European Union, they didn't know how to manage the influx of these people. There wasn't enough work, there wasn't enough this, that, and all the other. And effectively what you get is the indigenous population then say, these are the thieves, these are the thugs, these are the gang leaders, these are this, that.
Isn't it, Alf? That's the thing. You look different, therefore you must be different, therefore you must fear you.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what happened in Sweden. Well, let's step back a little bit to when Europe really started to, people started to move around. All right, in the UK, you had the issue about Polish builders coming in and taking all the jobs, probably because they were better workers than the Brits, certainly cheaper. But what the issue we had in Spain, if people remember, if Andreas remembers, the issue in Spain was Romanians. And it was Romanians in northern Spain, and the issue in northern Spain was You're letting all these people flood in. There's not enough work for them, even though there's not unemployment. There's a deficit of workers in Spain. There's a deficit of people in Spain. You let all these people in, and effectively, and it doesn't matter which country you go to in the world.
Alf, can I stop you there for a second?
Yeah.
There's never been any problems with Romanians in Spain because Romanians are part of the EU, so they
That's
come
right.
here legally
No,
and they work.
Andreas, then you weren't looking at the news. In the north, it was north of Madrid, Lyon area, and there was huge issues about Romanian travellers coming into Spain, not participating in what was going on, and the local population, the accusations from the local population, as happens everywhere, they're the thieves, they're the thugs, they're the this, they're the that. I'm not saying that it's true, but don't say it didn't happen, because I was living here and I used to get it all the time. And the same applies wherever you go in the world. You tell me one country where you get an influx of people, and I'm agreeing with you, Andreas, it's about how it's managed. You get an influx of people from one country, there's two issues you have to deal with. You either split them up and send them all around the country, in which case they become isolated, and I mean isolated, or you collect them together and they end up in like, remember, Harlem, they'll end up... And that's what happened in the UK.
The word is ghetto. Ghetto.
Okay, so I lived in East London. I can tell you that almost every Vietnamese asylum seeker, boat person, that came into London ended up in Newham. Every borough was supposed to take their amount, and every borough took their amount and then placed them into Newham. The issue there was, it was easier to provide English as a second language teaching in schools. It was easier to provide health service because they have different things that occur to them that they need specialised work in. They had different social services, different housing requirements, different this. So you ghettoise, and you naturally. We had the Senegalese, and when the local council decided they were going to stop white land. Now, anybody who lived anywhere near docks knew that everywhere around there was called white land, because everybody who lived there had worked in the docks, and everybody who worked in the docks effectively was white. So it was called white land. In order to break down that, which is where the National Front set up, and we used to have a pub called the British Flag, all that's rubbish, I nearly swore then. To destroy that, you then infiltrate other people. So every house that comes up, you put somebody different in. Yeah, so what did we have? 14 houses in a row with Senegalese. Yeah. What did that do? That the indigenous population, the people that live there, immediately get upset. Why do they get all the houses? Why do they get this? Why do they get that?
People are saying that about the Irish, sort of
like... Of course they did in Cuban. What happened in Cuban?
So the thing is, if you start saying ghettos, panel, and of course, if Brits come to Spain, they stick together. You are drawn to people, and it's much easier. You want to. I mean, the problem with Germany when Merkel, this was a gut reaction from Merkel, and you can't. There was no system to take them, but they're fleeing a war. They can't say, "Can you just hang on there whilst we get the system set up?" It was an emotional knee-jerk reaction, and that is why. But the people who think there's some sort of dark,
But Andreas is right. It's about the way it's got to be handled properly, and all these things have got to be thought through. And there's no point in the European Union saying, because of Schengen, because the issue is most of these people have ended up in Spain. They haven't drifted up to the UK or Germany or anywhere. They've stayed in Spain because that's obviously part of their naturalisation, where they've congregated. So they're not going to immediately all get on a boat and go, or a train and go to some other part of Europe.
Do you see the point?
Infect the rest of Europe.
Yeah, Andreas. Yeah, no, you see,
taking a breath.
You see, the point is that these people, or the government's point, because up to here, I've tried to be balanced. I've presented you with the argument from the government by allowing these people to stay and give them work contracts and everything else, or allow them to have work contracts. So they go into the system, and they are in the balance sheet. They become productive, and I giving you the opposition's view to say, look, the numbers that we are throwing into the system is going to be very difficult to cope with, because don't forget, it's this universal health in Spain. And even if you're a foreigner with no papers, if you fall ill, you can go to an emergency services and you'll be treated, but you will not be appointed a doctor, and you will not be appointed a long-term follow-up in terms of health. So if you do that with 500,000 people in one go, and let me just say, I'm taking the lowest figure of 500,000, although the official figures are, because they don't know, between 500,000 and 1.3. So if it's even the higher figure, the stress on social services is going to be massive, not to say education. And one point that one of the callers said is that will send a message to other people that might have aspirations to come to Spain, to think, oh, well, if we go there and we manage, sooner or later, they're going to pass another amnesty.
They're here already, aren't they, Andreas? They're here already. It's not like, oh, we'll encourage more to come. What a pile of nonsense that argument is. These people are coming anyway. It's how do you manage them? It's how do you manage them when you come in, when they come into the country?
But there is the fear that places in other countries.
How many Brits do you think are living, let alone in Spain, in Andalusia? How many illegal Brits? None of those, by the way, are allowed to apply for this scheme. None of them. And I can point out,
Are they not? I don't think it discriminates nationality.
According to Myra, we had a conversation about this with citizens of Bureau of Spain, and if it doesn't exclude British. You are sorry, anybody thinks an expat. We're all migrants, so therefore, if you are, you can get your documentation.
It would be.
What I heard that they've excluded.
No.
Europeans.
Let me just make this point, so you can breathe for a second. The Spanish Constitution wouldn't allow for legislation to be passed that excludes nationalities. That would be completely unconstitutional. So the Brits who are here, they comply with this particular this particular law. Can
the specifications for that particular
if they fit in with the dates and everything else, they will.
I'll show you the people. Right. You get me the passes.
Now I've got to hit a couple of breaks, Alf. So
yes, cheers, panel.
Bye.
See you later. Right, 952 78 4000 is the phone number. Studio@tre.radio is the email.
Viewpoint with
Giles Brown.
Always live, always lively, joined in the studio by Ali Ababapule and Andres Gallardo, and in the UK from Rex Leyland. Rex, any thoughts on what Alf said about managing and, with the immigration thing? I mean, obviously something of a worry for you, as you were saying before.
Well, I mean, not that it affects me, but why can't I come over this afternoon and be one of these 500,000 and be able to live and work in Spain?
Let me just explain. There was a time limit, so people who were here before certain dates, I think somewhere in mid-December. So it's not good for you to come now because you wouldn't fit the criteria. It's only for those who've been here 6 months before that date. 6 months or more.
Now, of course, I'm being very facetious.
Yeah, of course. No, I understand. But if somebody is listening thinking, this is my time to come to Spain and get the papers, they won't fitting the criteria. So I'm not encouraging anyone to come to Spain.
Well, as Giles knows, I'm in possession of another passport. So I'm not.
Yes, we know about you. Yes. I've got a phone call coming. Let's see what this call has to say. Morning, call. You're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Yes, Giles, it's Gary again.
Hi, Gary.
Sorry, I forgot to say... Oh, your voice tailed down then. I forgot to say that it was nice to hear Gil call in. I haven't heard him for a while. You don't have to like his opinion, but it's one of common sense. which has just reminded me now, listen to some people's comments, is that too many people's leading with the heart, and that's what causes the problems. You can be too empathetic and, dare I say, worrying about other people's feelings. Can I just quote David Blunkett and Alan Johnson, who I believe is one of your friends of one of your panellists, etc., when they said, yeah, let them all in, all the Bulgarians and the Romanians, yeah, let them all in, it won't cause a problem. Try going to Sheffield now and see the problems up there and a few other places. Some people, and I include myself in this, we knew this was going to happen. We knew these problems. And what one person said, I think it was Rex or Gil, it's letting in this unfettered migration causes the problems that the so-called do-gooders want stopped. It's the same as DIE. It causes more problems than it's supposed to fix. But there you go. You get some that leans with the brains and some that lead with the heart. So that's what life's about, I suppose. Anyway,
I think you're about to break into song there, Gary. That was the sort of a musical number. Some lead with the brain, some lead with the heart, and there he was gone. Are you leading with the brain or the heart, Rex?
I think a bit of both. I'd like to think a bit of both. But I do understand the compassion that we should show to other people, regardless of who, what, where and why. But one has to say now that, unfortunately, things have got out of control. And Alf was right. There are areas certainly of London, where you find concentrations of different people. But then you can go back in time and say that immigration, there's been immigration for hundreds of years, and all the different peoples who have passed through our country, who have contributed and achieved and paid something back. You cannot just wipe the slate or wave the wand and say that there's been no good on this. What has happened is that consecutive governments have failed to control the immigration. And I know I was talking to somebody the other day about our civil service in the UK. It is not working. It is top-heavy. They're not able to control our so-called daily lives in many aspects, including immigration, because they are not functioning as they should. And all this, certainly in the UK now, is reflected in our day-to-day lives, how things don't work anymore. They used to work, but they don't anymore. And certainly our generation are really quite unhappy and upset with probably how we've all been failed. And we feel very, very sorry for our children and our grandchildren that they will have to sort all this out sometime very soon.
Thank you for that one. You're nodding sagely.
There's a lot. All of the people who've been phoning in and talking now have various points which are relative to the actual situation. There's good in everything that somebody has said, and I don't agree with other things which they have said also. So it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. But I think also the point was made here is that the sheer bureaucracy is not capable at the moment, or was before, of dealing with all of this properly in a controlled manner. Correct. I quite agree with you.
I think the problem is identified as a problem, but no one has found a solution yet, and they are tinkering with different options on what to do with it. Because on one side, and rightly so, someone said, immigration is needed, and it is. Certainly in a country like Spain, where we have a lot of work in the primary sector, agriculture, livestock, and everything else. So it is needed. And on the other hand, we have to manage the numbers and the social services that we give to the people who live here. And that is the difficulty, the strain on the health system, on the education system, and especially housing at the moment. Yes. All of that is just... You can't just keep adding people and people and people, because we are at breaking point. So managing the need of immigration with what we've got in our hands is the difficulty. And at the moment, I can't see any country or any model that is being followed that tackles that problem successfully. And we all think doubling a little bit here and there. And someone also said that all this level of immigration is fueling the extreme right views, which is completely against it, not taking into account the needs that we have in a country for immigration. And they're totally against it. And that keeps fueling the rise of right-wing, like we've seen in Germany, and we are seeing in Vox. Although I think that Vox has a ceiling, and they're just about to reach their ceiling. So, if anything, in the future, I may be completely wrong, ladies and gentlemen, so those start typing away.
Yes, indeed.
But I think they might deflate a little bit because they have reached that ceiling in terms of it. So, there you go. Rex, you can shout at me now.
No. Can I ask a quick question? As I haven't been back recently. For example, is the new passport screening entry system working in Spain at all the airports and ports, or is it been postponed like in other parts of the EU because the system's not fit for purpose?
I've been
you've got to give your fingerprints out and all.
I've been going through without any problems. I've got an EU passport, British passport, and my Spanish residencia card. And I just go up to the Spanish...
But are the actual gates working now? I mean...
they were at Christmas.
I believe so, yeah. I think that the systems, the digital system to enter and everything is in place, and I believe it works. Whether maybe at a time it's not working at a particular airport, it could be for technical reasons, but overall I think that's how it works. It worked
perfectly when I came through back from the UK.
I think it's the case, so if, I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong.
952784000. This coming in on the WhatsApps. Are we not just reaping what we have sowed in all the countries we've colonised? We have to accept immigration. Politicians manage the numbers, please. We caused most of this. Another one coming in saying, Gary knows everything. I wish I was so clever and informed. Gary, you've got a fan club. Right, going to take a quick break and then we're back for the last 7 minutes of this morning's Viewpoint.
Viewpoint on Talk Radio Europe with
Giles Brown.
952784000. Reptilian overlords, that's a thought. Caller, you're live on TRE. No, the nay was gone. Right then, into the last 7 minutes. Just quickly, airport practices certainly differ between Alicante and Malaga. This is Gary. And yes, I'm good looking as well as knowing everything. Here, and modest with it. Talking about good looking. Yes.
You can join my club as well.
Yes, indeed. Gosh. You're still sniggering with that, aren't you? Yeah. Right, here we go. Morning, caller, you're live on TRE. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your viewpoint, please?
Hi, it's Pamela Giles. We met before when I was presenting on Ping Charity. We've been working 20 years in Gambia, and I think that a lot of your... Good morning. A lot of your callers are looking at this from the wrong point of view. We've been there and believe it. It's unbelievable the poverty that is still there. This is 2026. And if I were there, I would be making every effort to get out. The young people, the young men who 20 years ago would have been in the villages, would have been helping in the gardens and so on, they're now seeing on mobile phones, which they get for free, pay for calls, and they get to see what it's like in Europe. They get to see what's happened to people who have already gone, and they have nothing. They have very little education up to about 16, and they come out and there are no jobs. There's no investment in the country. I suppose the Chinese are probably doing a little bit more than most people, but there is nothing there for them. And I've sat down and talked to them, and there is no future. So they say, I'm prepared to risk probably €600 to pay a smuggler to get me on a boat. I know that there's a possibility that I might die, but it is better than sitting here for the rest of my life with nothing. And we have to look at a situation where we're spending a fortune on immigrants coming in, and what we need to be doing is spending money in those countries and helping them stay there. Yeah. And that's what we're trying to do, is put clean water in the villages to give them a chance to grow vegetables, to make bricks, to do beehives, to do something that they can earn a bit of money and can actually want to stay there. And they don't want to leave. They want to stay with their families. They're no different to you and me. They have the same hopes, fears, and ambitions, and they would prefer to stay at home. And we need to be looking at it in a different way.
Pamela, hello, this is Alia here. I read something, I'm paraphrasing something which Nelson Mandela said, and he said, leave Africa to the Africans to sort themselves out.
Yeah.
That was
it's very difficult. It's the greatest respect. It's very difficult to do that when you don't have any money. We've had people say to us, why do they not help themselves? But I've met women who never had money at the age of 50 in their lives.
Oh, no, I agree with you.
You know?
I'm not saying anything.
And now they can grow vegetables. They can eat half of the produce. They can sell half, and a little bit of that money. You know what they spend it on? Sending their kids to school.
Yeah, education.
And that's so sad because they finish it. Yes, but unfortunately at 16, the education does them no good because there are no jobs.
There are a few countries coming up in Africa who are pulling themselves really out of poverty, and you should look at what's happening in Burkina Faso.
Andreas first, and then Rex.
Yeah, I just want to navigate the lady on the phone. I think she says she works for a charity.
No, it's called Ping. She was a guest on my show. Right. Absolutely, unbelievably.
Okay, I just want to ask you a question. You said that you need investment into these countries so they can develop themselves, but they need, I imagine, an initial investment. It's not true that in the past, those attempts to invest in these countries, the money has somehow disappeared with corrupt governments who have taken the money but not utilize the money to develop the country. Is that true, or is it something that we're reading about and it's not accurate?
Okay, well, first of all, they learned corruption from their previous masters who colonized them. Yes, of course, there's corruption as everywhere else there is.
Yeah.
But I have to say that if we have helped villagers with water, they're prepared to go out and dig the ditches, they're prepared to look after it, maintain it, pay money for the water. Okay, not very much, but enough to maintain the systems ongoing. So it isn't that they don't want charity. They just want help. And if you don't have a boat, you can't get your boat to rise, you know, because that's what I couldn't understand when I first went there 20 years ago. Why can't they help themselves? You say, well, you need something to start a venture, to start a business, and you also need someone holding your hand to drive that forward, like we've done with brick making and beekeeping. Because you have to realise, like my husband was talking to them about drip feed systems recently, and they'd never heard of drip feed systems. And you just think, how can that possibly be right at this time? You know, but it is a lack of education. It's unfortunately the people who are in power. You know, we had Jama for 21 years, a dictator. Now we've got a supposed democratic government. You know, and yes, they're doing their best, and they're actually putting electricity in roads and schools. But there's no feedback. There's no money coming back from those investments yet.
But it's
long term. Yeah, but they're trying, but they have to pay the MFI, they have to pay the central bank back on the interest of the loans that the countries that lent them the money said, you can have the money, but you've got to pay us the money back.
Just one very quick question again. Sorry, now that I've got you on the phone, very quick. Is it better to have institutional sort of support in terms of money or private enterprise supporting it?
I don't know, because I'm only in the private sector. So as far as we know, we turn up every year. We make sure what money we put in is working. Institutions, yes, of course they need structure and institutions, but mostly they need corporate money. They need big money coming in. Surely there must be some added value to peanuts that they grow. There must be some way that we could put a company in doing materials, or Mali have got.
I feel we have to get you back on the show very, very soon, Pamela. I think that's the thing, but I'm going to run out of time. But just quickly, give yourself a quick plug for it's PING, isn't it? Ping is the name of the charity.
Yes, People in Need Gambia. We've been there 20 years. We've just in the middle of our 20th village.
Yeah.
We have about 35,000 Gambians with clean water.
Pamela, it's Ping. Thank you. Going to run out of time, but thank you for your call in there. Rex, just a quick, because we're almost out of time, Rex. Just to have a quick... yes, Rex, go.
I agree and sympathise with the caller, and congratulations and well done. However, I think... being rather senior, one has to look back at the days of the empire. I mean, this is just a slight angle that
Steady, Rex.
we had to I think we were running out of money running the empire, and they were asking for independence, and we gave independence to all of the empire, majoritively. Some were fit to govern themselves, and majoritively the others were not fit to govern themselves.
Dominion forces, Rex. Right then, just quickly, I've got to run out of time. Thanks for your time today, Rex Leyland.
It's a pleasure, and thank you, Giles. And I hope that everything comes out as it should with the help of this government, with everybody being looked after.
And Therese,
thank you, Giles. Thank you, everyone.
And Alia?
Thank you very much. Lively conversation as always.
This programme will be repeated at 6 o'clock. Stephen Ritson is up next. Have a good rest of your Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.
The views expressed on Viewpoint by invited studio guests and callers do not constitute an opinion endorsed in any way by Talk Radio Europe.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit TRE.radio.